Today on the Bass Channel, we're sampling a handful of basses from McGrath guitars. But before we do, let me just give you a quick rundown of the signal chain in this video. Every single sample is running through the Ampeg SVT Suite plugin, and from there everything is running into my own cab sim of a Heritage 810 and a Beta 52. Now, throughout the video, here and there are going to be a couple samples that slightly stray from that bedrock, but I'll jump in to let you know when that happens. So I'm sure a lot of you, if not most of you, have heard of McGrath guitars by this point. If you're not familiar, this Thunderhorse right here was a collaboration between Cormac McGrath and myself. Kind of my idea on paper of like, hey, this could be cool, and then he made it into a reality, masterfully, I might add. And if you haven't seen that video, it's right here. So anyway, Cormac and his wife Madeline came out a couple weeks ago, and they brought 7 basses with them for us to check out and test and play and listen to and take a look at and synonyms. So rather than waterboard you for the next 15 minutes with my apparently Joe Rogan voice, I actually had Cormac and Madeline sit down in this very spot to tell you about what the basses are, what they're made of, what they feature, and how they're finished, as the saying goes, straight from the horse's mouth. But over the next couple minutes, I may or may not jump in to inject my thoughts and opinions on some of these models. So without further ado, let's start with number 1.
First up, we have the short scale Thunderhorse IV. It still has your 3 EMG pickups. This one has a badass bridge, ebony fretboard, roasted flamed maple neck, 6 bolt on. It's a really cool bass.
So I don't look for inspiration from other guitars, because then I think that I'll just be making derivatives of it. So I look up basically like nature. So that's why we call this one the Rock and Sky series, because I look up sky palettes or some kind of gem or rock, and then I make a palette from it, and then it's like watercolor. It's essentially like the process is exactly as fast as watercolor has to be applied. So sometimes I don't have like a lot of time, so I plan my palettes out in advance. And then there's always like a little bit of shimmer in the grain, which I think is like a little nice touch if you spend money on something and you invest in something you're gonna have for a long time. You might as well like catch little things every now and then.
This is kind of a new model. We're calling the Thumper. It's a short scale with flats. It just has the P and Thunderbird. It's a real good studio bass. It's real light, it's real easy to play. You still got the 6 bolts, hand painted, roasted flamed maple neck, stainless frets, through body. Yeah, cool.
This is a Sky series one, so it's Violet Storm. The colors are kind of like a desert thunderstorm, and this is the first one where I started to paint it within the grain, so it's almost like not paint by numbers, but you know, like contained to within the grain, because I really like the way the peeling eucalyptus, the rainbow peeling eucalyptus in Australia looks. And that's a difficult wood to find, so that was us kind of mimicking it. And then again, I put a lot of thought into what will sit in the grain so that when I sand it back, there's some dynamic levels to it. And then once we put the satin coat on, this one's satin, it's kind of like sending something into a kiln. It comes back like stoneware. It's so beautiful. And then all these other things pop. So you really cannot make mistakes because they will come to the surface, just like ceramic. Yeah. And yeah, I always pay really close attention to here. This is the part that I start because this is the part that you will see the most.
This is the brand new Thunderhorse V. So we have 3 EMG HC soap bars, a B30 EQ running at 18 volts, a master volume with a passive active push-pull, and these switches are just on-off switches, so you can run all pickups at once or whatever you want. Ebony necks, stainless frets, 1.8 inch nut, roasted flame maple neck, hip chart hardware on this one. Hand painted, 18 volt with a battery compartment on the back, 6-bolt neck. This one's a little heavier. It's about 10 pounds, but you know, some people like that, some people don't. I also have alder, swamp ash and stuff, but the weight really does add the tone, if you believe in that kind of thing, which I do. But yeah, it's a really nice bass.
So this one is called Coral Sand, and that's exactly, this is the color palette, is that it's like sand on a coral beach. And there's a lot of different layers to it that come up. It's almost like sending something to the kiln. So things come up to the surface and you get all these little dynamic pops of color and shimmer, and then some of the wood coming through. And I do this technique where I kind of drag so that there's no hard edge, but so everything kind of looks like it's crystals in these little like triangles, almost like doing hair. Someone who does hair will know what that means. It's kind of the way hair grows, and then wood is similar. So I try and like celebrate the wood and not take away from what's already there, but then I also don't want it to look like a coffee table because no one wants a coffee table base. And this one's really, peach was the Pantone color of the year last year. Since they have moved on, and I'm very attached to the peach from last year, so it's our most popular color. Which makes me feel really good about basses because I'm like, you know, peach is a good color.
This is another Thunderhorse V. This one's Chris's favorite because it has Lollar pickups instead of EMGs. It still has an EMG active EQ. Still has the master active passive switch and your on-off switches for each pickup. Roasted flame maple on this. Still a 1.8 inch nut. 18 volts. Hand painted. It's got a satin clear on it. This one's alder, so it's like 8 pounds. Really nice weight. so I had to, this is a 5-string Lollar Thunderbird that they make for me. Thinking about doing one with 3 Thunderbirds, that'd be kind of fun. There's a phasing issue you encounter sometimes with 3 pickups, and I have to do a 2-way connector, and they wired that for me so I can make it work.
This is a lighter weight wood, the alder, and people really like that because people have bad backs, and you know they have to gig and they don't want to be uncomfortable the whole time. Because Cormac used to have problems with his back, and I love doing these because they don't have as much grain. So I don't have I have to do better. You know what I mean? I have to like really celebrate the wood. And then this turned out really well in that I'm starting to do more of these techniques where I'm making it look like gems coming up. I'm letting some of the wood come through, but then putting the shimmer on and then the satin on the top. It's like a mica powder mix all. There's lots of little subtle like pops. Like I don't just do, it's not a factory produced color, so I'm not just painting the whole thing. Like I take corners to do at a time. And because I get interrupted a lot, I have a toddler, I have to do little, I swear, quadrants. And I always, again, I started with this section because it's the most important. Yeah, and then the back is always like just as beautiful as the front. That's my goal. Even though it's gonna get worn, it's by someone's belt, it's fine. It's just as nice.
Okay, so as promised, I'm back to jump in and interject a couple thoughts about the Thunderhorse V with the Lollar pickups. Now, yes, I know, haha, big joke, this guy loves EMG. Obviously, I've got the evidence to back it up. But I will tell you, as an EMG fan, I thought the Lollars sounded great, particularly on their own. They have a vibe, and they have a character, and they have a whole cool thing going on. I've said it before, I'll probably have to say it a million more times. There's nothing wrong with anything. Everything sounds good. If it sounds good to you, awesome. I prefer EMG for a variety of reasons that I touched on in this video. I'm not really going to go over it again. But this Lollar bass, while it did sound really good and have its own character, reminded me of why I prefer the EMG. And there's more to it than just like an EQ thing to where, oh, these have, you know, fewer mids and more treble and whatever. There is some of that, of course, but there is more to it that's beyond the EQ spectrum. It's a dynamic control, i.e. compression, even though that when you say compression, it becomes a bad word. But when you say dynamic control, it kind of becomes a good word. That there's more of a consistent response from B to G across the strings. There's more dynamic control. I don't really know how else to say it. But anyway, I put 2 back-to-back samples. It's the same song. First one's on the Lollar, the second one's on the EMG. There's a little bit of EQ going on the bass. Therefore, we're bypassing the Ampeg head and going bass, onboard preamp, speaker sample.
Okay, so this one's kind of special. I made this as kind of the final boss for Chris because he loves pickup selection. So you've got 3 Music Man pickups, but they each have a 3-way selector, so you can go series, single, or parallel on each pickup separately. I think we worked out as 187 combinations of tone on this bass, and it's passive, so yeah, cool. This one has a rosewood neck, roasted flame maple. It's a 1.65 inch note width. It's a really nice bass.
Okay, so popping in here again, Cormac just mentioned 187 tones. I actually don't know if that's correct. I have tried a variety of formulas to figure out how many possible combinations there are in this bass, and I've come up with wildly varying answers all the way from 27 to 189, and I know the answer is somewhere in the middle, whether it's 49, 63, 80 something. So if you have some kind of affinity for mathematics, please let me know in the comments. How many possible tonal combinations are there? Again, assuming that we're just talking pickup on and off, not volume at 5 and on and off with 3 switches. Because I know that the Thunderhorse has 7, and that's just, the pickups are just what they are. So it's 7 combinations of pickups. I know this has at least 7, obviously more because the switches. So let me know. But until we figure that out, I mean, obviously this bass is rad. The full single coil, all 3 singles, is really good for heavy-handed attack. Lighter finger, lighter pick, you know, you start getting into the series. But I always found it's really fun to experiment with like more of a heavy series, darker pickup closer to the neck with the more trebly single coil pickup towards the bridge, and you kind of get the best of both worlds. And I use that combination quite a bit when I have the option, and I found that the same works with this bass.
So this one, the finish for it, I was going with a sky as a palette. This one's kind of Southwest inspired because that one was received really well. Like immediately, people were interested in it, and I think people like a Southwest like sunset. And this one's a little bit smoky, but also it has almost like a slot canyon kind of feel in the back. I'm really inspired by nature. I go for a lot of walks, like with my daughter, and I'll see bottle brush or something and think, oh, maybe I could do like a texture like that, just so that I'm not copying other manufactured bases. Because I can pick a million old car colors and then they'll just look like a Fender, you know? But this is like something special. I really spend a lot of time on them, not all in one sitting, but there's lots of little details.
This is one people have been asking me for, Thunderhorse IV with a soap bar at the bridge. I did put in a push pull so you can coil tap the soap bar to make it a single coil and still get that Thunderhorse sound. It's a alder body, so it's nice and light. Rosewood neck, 1.65 inch nut, roasted flame maple. Yeah, this is a good one. Gold hardware, can't go wrong.
So yeah, this one has a lot of depth to it because we do let some of the grain come through because we don't want them to look plastic. And then the headstock also matches. And I did that by hand, which is really hard because that's a lot of masking and like wiping. It's pretty much doing eyeliner. That's what I compare it to. But yeah, that's our satin finish black.
Here's another fun one. So we got 2 reverse Ps on a Thunderbird. His color is Voodoo Blue. It's from an FJ Cruiser. I just always like that color. It's got a rosewood neck, black hardware, 1.65 inch nut. It's a cool bass. It's really quiet too. There's no hum or anything because there's no single coil.
When we do pick colors that are from cars, we pick cars that mean something to us. And so one of our good friends has this a Voodoo Blue car, and Cormac loves it. And he's colorblind. Can I say that he's colorblind? So I usually am like, yes, confirm, that's a nice color. So blues and reds he gravitates to. So you'll notice that any of our like ones that are car colors or a classic color that we pick, I have to make sure that it pops for him. So it makes me think that even someone who like can't receive color, they're gonna still love it, you know?
Okay, and that just about wraps up our sampler platter of McGrath guitars. Now, of all of these 7 basses that we played, I had favorites and I had some that I wasn't quite as drawn to for a variety of reasons. But more important, well, before I get onto that, I know you're burning to know which ones are my favorite. The Thunderhorse V and the Coral Sand was so good that we kept it. It's currently with Chuck right now. He's gigging with it and it sounds awesome. Coming in at number 2 was definitely that Thumper with that violet sky finish. I mean, the finish is awesome, but beside the finish, I mean, it's just a cool bass too. Like that short scale, flat wound, just those 2 pickups, everything about that bass was rad. But I do have to say, I am really partial to that finish. It looks so good. Of course, coming in at a very close third was the triple Music Man, just because of how huge it sounded, how many options you get. Jury's still out, let me know down below. It just felt and sounded so good. Now, that being said, the ones that I found I wasn't gravitating towards as much, and this is just a preference thing, is I didn't like the lighter basses, the ones that were lighter in weight, specifically the Soapbar Thunderhorse and the Double P. I did really like the Double P when other people played it with a pick. The sound just jumped out of the bass and it was really bright and aggressive. Now, I know I'm risking sounding a little hippie here, but I can hear the weight. For the most part, I can hear the weight of the bass in the tone, even the recorded tone. I have found, in my experience, that when a bass is heavier or weighs more, the dynamics seem to vary less between soft plucks and hard thumps. The transients don't vary as greatly as they do when it's a lighter bass. And usually lighter basses oftentimes are a little bit brighter, they're a little bit more aggressive, and the heavier basses are a little bit more subdued and a little bit more controlled and have just, again, a more even response to them. And that was especially true when you take the Coral Sand Thunderhorse versus the Blue Double P or the Soapbar. That difference is definitely heard and felt. But the thing that I love is whether I prefer this particular bass or I dislike this particular bass, I like that that's even a thing, because sometimes when you get mass manufactured instruments, they're all just coming out and it doesn't really matter which one you get. This green PJ right there that we all love, I'm sure all of the green PJs sound pretty much like that one. Regardless of what pickups you put in, it's gonna respond the same because of its materials and its weight and whatever else. And the thing that I found, especially when we went to NAMM and we played, they're basically all identical Thunderhorses. They all sounded and felt and responded a little differently. I was partial to the peach one and the gold one. Those two kind of had a brighter, more forward, snappier tone, but not like in an aggressive way, just they were more forward in their treble. Whereas the lava one seemed a little bit more subdued. Now, of course, the lava one was much heavier than the peach one, so there's the weight thing again. Anyway, I can go on about that stuff forever. The point is there's a bunch of different options, and when you're not finishing these instruments in a thick plastic finish, I think that a lot of the characteristics of the wood, be it the weight and the density and all of that sort of stuff, have more of an opportunity to shine. So if you decide that you want to get a custom McGrath bass, there's an order form. You can choose what type of wood. I think as of right now, it's mahogany, ash, swamp ash, and alder. The alder is definitely going to be quite a bit lighter. Like we talked about, it's going to have, more pronounced transients and a little bit more aggressive top end and a little bit snappier response up front. Whereas I believe it's the ash is the heavier, more subdued, dynamic controlled one that we talked about that I prefer. Either way, you're free to pick whichever one you want on the website. The link is down below in the description. So until then, I think all I have to say is be safe, and I'll see you later.